Hi, I'm Alan Robinette with the Saline County Library. I'm the community librarian, and welcome to Saline County Speaks, where we try and talk to people who are making an impact in Saline County. I am here with Tracey Childress and Holly Heer with the Cooper Anthony Mercy Child Advocacy Center. That's quite a mouthful.
It is.
Which is why we love CAMCAC. We love saying CAMCAC, much easier. Like I say, I was really impressed. I'm also with Kiwanis, and Tracey was kind enough to come and talk to our Kiwanis club. And as soon as I started this program, I thought, well, that's somebody who's really making a difference in Saline County, and that's somebody I wanted to talk to. I went from the website, and it says, CAMCAC, I'll just read from here, offers a safe, child-friendly environment where comprehensive and coordinated approach is taken in response to allegations of child abuse. And that is accurate.
That is accurate.
That's absolutely accurate. But for those who are unfamiliar with CAMCAC, what does that mean?
So that means, Alan, anytime there's been an allegation of maltreatment towards a child within Saline County and it gets accepted at the Child Abuse Hotline for an investigation, it means that the services that a child will be needing is going to be comprehensive and provided at a child-friendly response to that allegation. So prior to the inception of child advocacy centers, children would have to go to all the different entities that were responding to the allegation. Well, with the inception of child advocacy centers, everything happens under one roof. So the child comes first. The child and the family are the focus. And so anything that we can do to remove that stress and all those dynamics that come with the possibility of this being exposed and being brought to light, that is lessened by having a child-friendly environment with individuals that are highly skilled and highly trained to meet the needs of that child and family.
And that also prevents the child from having to tell this trauma story again and again and again.
Yes, that is the hopes that when the child presents to the Child Advocacy Center for the services, that is when we operate in that, what you refer to as that comprehensive coordinated response. We work under a multidisciplinary team response. So all the agencies that have to work these cases, they all come to the Child Advocacy Center. So that child has all their needs met there, and they do not have to go and speak to every individual agency that needs to be involved with responding to this allegation.
Very good. And what does that mean as far as Saline County? Tell me a little bit about your presence in Saline County and how that has developed.
Yes, so we opened our doors here in 2003, here in Hot Springs, and our service area included Saline County. We serve 6 counties, and so we have been providing services to the children and families in Saline County since 2003, but it got to a pivotal point where those much needed follow-up services weren't taking place because of families oftentimes not being able to leave the county. So in 2018, we made the decision to put a brick and mortar and put a satellite office, brick and mortar, in Saline County, so those families and children would have those much needed follow-up services right there in county, so they would be able to connect and have that made available to them.
And did you see over the past couple of years with COVID and the isolation that has provided, have you seen an uptick in family violence?
So what we did see is we saw our numbers dip down. At the very, very beginning of COVID, our numbers dipped down. And it really paralleled with the situation that children were denied an outlet of that safety mechanism. When children were no longer attending school, they didn't have that safety net where they had an outside source that they could speak to if there was something negatively impacting them. So what we saw is really at the onset of COVID, we saw a dip and a decline with our numbers, but then very, very quickly, we started getting, our numbers started increasing. And where they were increasing was physical violence towards them. And, I know we're not the only agency that has seen this taking place. When we have been in the schools talking with our counselors and our teachers, when children were starting back attending school, or they were seeing a lot of that dynamic taking place. I just believe that we know statistically most children know their offender. Their offenders have access to them. So we know that with statistically having children more time being spent possibly with their offenders, those numbers rising made sense.
Yeah, a natural,
Yes.
unfortunate but natural outgrowth of that.
Yes.
So when that does happen and something is reported, take me through the process. Take me through maybe, from the reporting to and maybe even through the forensic interview. What is that process like at CAMCAC?
So what will happen is our office hours, we're open, but we also, if we're not physically in the building, we have a team that's on call 24/7. So we know child abuse is at 9 to 5. So we work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. If we're not physically in the building, we have a team that responds. So what will happen is if we receive a call, whether it's after hours or during business hours, from one of our agencies that has received this report from the Child Abuse Hotline, that agency will call us and they'll say, we have a referral, we have a 7-year-old boy, there's allegations of physical abuse, when can you get them in? So we know that these agencies have a time frame that they have to lay eyes on the child once they receive the report, and that's why we operate 24 hours a day, so we can make sure we meet what the law requires. And so we will take that call, we will have that child brought in. What will happen is when that agency who's received the report, they will make contact with the guardian of that child, and they'll say, this is Detective, I just received a report from the hotline. I need you to have your child up at the Child Advocacy Center at 10 a.m. this morning. And what will happen is when that child presents, they will be greeted by one of our child advocates. Our child advocates will greet the child, speak to the child first, find out from the child who is with them. We know that children are the holder of the knowledge. We want to empower our children from the first encounter they have here at the Child Advocacy Center, that they are important, that we are looking to them for the knowledge. And so every little thing we do has a purpose from the moment they step in the door. So that child advocate is the individual who provides that blueprint to that child and family about what it's going to look like, what it's going to be, why they're here.
Now, are they the people who I guess I should start. Is there a determination as to whether the adult should be in the room? And is it the child advocate who makes that determination? Because I can see a point at which the child either would not divulge information if the adult was in the room, or on the flip side of that, the child might be afraid to divulge any information unless the adult were in the room.
So to answer that question, the forensic interview that takes place is always between the child and the forensic interviewer. There was no one else allowed in the room. Only the forensic interviewer and the child. And there's reasons for that, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But once that child advocate provides that blueprint and that paperwork's gone over, then that child's made aware by the child advocate that someone's going to get to talk with them and spend some time with them. And at that point, that forensic interviewer will come out and do a very minimal meet and greet with that child just to see if there's any questions, and then they will proceed to take that child into the forensic interview room. That comprehensive coordinated response that I spoke to, when this forensic interview is unfolding, we have an observation room that has all of our MDT members in it observing that live interview. So everything that they're needing information-wise is being garnered from that one very highly skilled individual who's non-leading, non-suggestive, following a national protocol that's upheld in a court of law. So when prosecution is in that room, law enforcement is in that room, DHS is in that room,
you've got all the stakeholders there.
All the stakeholders there are receiving the information firsthand. So any questions they have, they can feed them through the interviewer if they need to. And so they can go and do their due diligence in their role. And yet the only person that had to be in front of that child and questioning that child is that forensic interviewer.
Who is an expert in doing exactly that.
And who follows the national protocol. And so once that child is done, if it's determined that child needs a forensic medical, we have forensic nurses that are SANE certified, which stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. These nurses, they provide that exam so our children don't have to be referred to Children's. They don't have to go anywhere else. Everything happens under one roof. And so if that child needs a medical, that'll take place. And then all of our children are referred to mental health. And they're also filling out with their guardian a screening form on the front end that the child advocate has provided. So every child is referred for therapy. Doesn't mean that every child needs it, but they're all given that opportunity if they do. And so we would be doing a disservice to our children if we just met the need of what the allegation was, if we didn't provide that hope and healing that's needed for that child. And our therapists are very trained as well. They provide a very specific therapy model, which is trauma-focused cognitive behavioral health therapy. We call it TFCBT, as you can imagine.
I can imagine, yes.
So it's a very specific model of treatment that is designed to remove that trauma that that child has undergone. It's about a 16-20 week, give or take, based on the individual, model of care that's delivered to that child to remove that trauma, so that child can go on to lead that God-given life they were designed to have before this took place. And very, very important. If we are not here to heal our children, we will all be, society at large will pay the price one way or another if we don't take care of our children. Besides it being the ethical thing to do on the front end to remove that for something that was outside the child's control. But if we don't, we're going to encounter these adults later on that are unemployable, unable to function, because, when this horrific trauma happens, it will lend itself and manifesting itself oftentimes in very negative manners and behaviors that are detrimental to that child.
Unless it is intercepted by someone
who's
with
very
empathy and
very trained in this model of care to remove that trauma.
Now, when we spoke before, you talked about dual reporting.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because that I thought was a little bit, at least for me, was a little bit difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about dual reporting and why it's so important.
Yes, so dual reporting is very, very important in the fact that there is a lag time, so to speak. So if a child comes up to you and makes a disclosure, or you witness something, God forbid you leave here and go to Walmart, you witness something in the parking lot that you feel very uncomfortable with, that you just witness happening to a child, and you pick up your cell phone and you call the Child Abuse Hotline, and it gets accepted for an investigation. There's going to be a little bit of lag time just in lieu of that transformation of information in the hands that needs to be for a response. So I always say, you never know if a child is imminent danger. So when you make a report, you don't know what's going to happen again to that child by the time that person who's going to work this report gets it. So I always encourage individuals who are not in this field, who really don't know the process, I encourage that dual reporting. And that means pick up the phone after you call the hotline. I would actually say if you see something actively happening, call 911 first.
Right.
Because actively you want to stop it immediately, and that's your law enforcement. So if you're sitting there in Saline County and you witness this outside a restaurant, call 911 and then call the hotline, because you want that immediate response.
Right. And this is a more systemic response, a holistic response that can't happen immediately.
Correct.
Whereas behavior sometimes needs to be corrected immediately.
A child needs to be protected immediately. I will say, Alan, that we cannot do this without our community. Our community, our center is for our community. It's for our children in our community. And we cannot do this alone. We are the individuals who are here, boots on the ground, rolling out the work, but we can't do it alone. We need to have our community. And I'm going to let you talk a little bit with Holly, who's here with me, because she enables us to keep our doors open and grow our programs and garner community support so we can have these services made available. Because all of our services are free.
Free.
There's never a charge, never a fee for any of our services. So oftentimes I get asked, how do we pay? How are we able to stay in existence? And I will say it's because of the work that Holly does. She is our full-time development individual employee that makes sure that our doors are open and our programs grow and that we're here for the children. And so I'm going to turn it over to Holly and let her talk about how we keep our programs and what we're doing and what our vision is for the center.
That's a big responsibility.
Well, it feels like it sometimes.
What you do here is so important. And, I was speaking to Michael Stewart last 2 weeks ago. We had our Saline County Speaks with the CEO of Saline Memorial. And one of the things he said was no money, no mission. if you don't have the funds to be able to, as important as a mission is, it has to be fully funded or the mission goes away. And so that's a huge responsibility on your shoulders. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and I know you want to talk about Aim for Advocacy.
So I do exactly what Tracey says. So I not only bring awareness to the center, to the community, speak at different groups, Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions Club, things like that. But then you also to garner that interest so that people want to invest in us. On average, it costs about $2,800 for a child to receive all the services that we offer, and those services cost money. And as a nonprofit, we have to, we have several grants that we have written for. We have 3 larger ones two are federal, one's a state grant. And then, we have a lot of other little grants that we apply for throughout the year through private organizations. And then it's just 2, personal donations, people coming in and writing a check. Really just getting someone in the door, giving them a tour of the facility, it's hard to not write a check.
How often do you give tours, and when are you available to give tours of the Saline County?
Anytime. My schedule is different depending on the week, what's going on that week.
So just call ahead?
Just call ahead and I'll give them. I give them pretty often. I actually have one today in Benton at 10 o'clock. So it just, whoever shows interest, if I reach out to someone and say, hey, I would love to give you a tour of our facility, in most of the time people are willing to do that. If not, I go to them, obviously, but we also too have to sometimes get creative with how we raise those dollars, because sometimes federal funds get cut. And so in those instances, that's where we came up with the Aim for Advocacy event that we have coming up at the end of the month on October 29th. It's our trap shoot that we have our first ever that we've done, and we're hoping that we can make it a fun thing so that maybe there will be a traveling trophy so that the team that wins can have bragging rights for a year until the next year and pass it off. And we're hoping we can get a lot of our first responders involved, and it'll just be a family fun event. We'll have things for kids and lunch, and it'll be kind of a morning to afternoon kind of day.
Okay, and when does it start?
It starts, the registration's at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And then the actual event starts at 9.
Do you still have I know you're looking for sponsors.
We are.
You're looking for teams, and you're looking for individuals. Do you still have room for anybody who wants to sign up?
We do, yes.
Okay.
I feel like some people are waiting to see how their schedule goes, or there's a lot going on in October.
Sure.
But yes, we still have openings, and we'd love to get them filled.
Okay. And this is going to be in Lonsdale, is that correct?
Lonsdale, yes, at the Mountain Valley Sportsmen's Association.
Okay. Very good.
They have graciously agreed to host our event.
Oh, well, that's a nice sponsorship right there.
Yes.
Just in and of itself.
Yes, very nice. And then also with the registration, for each person, they'll get the rounds that they need to do the trap shoot.
Oh,
so
okay.
75 rounds they'll receive.
Okay. Sounds like a fun event. And that's not, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a scramble. There's nothing wrong with a golf outing, but this is something different. This is something, and I really, really hope that it goes well for you all.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I don't know if you saw last night, but Archie Travels posted about it. She came out, her and Paul, Sarah and Paul came out and met me out at the shooting range and took some video.
I had not seen
and
that.
sent it out last night.
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
So, very good. I will look at that. So, now, if somebody watching this wants a tour or wants to support CAMCAC, what's the best way to reach, either in Hot Springs or in Saline County? What's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
So they call the main number, 501-622-2531, or they can email me directly. It's holly.heer@mercy.net.
Okay. Very good. Anything else you all would like to add?
We just want Saline County to know that we're there. We're not going anywhere. It is difficult at times to garner interest and support and dollars, but we're committed. We're committed. We've been committed since 2003, since we opened our doors, and we're going to continue to provide services and be there for the children and families.